the much anticipated Bristol Dirt Weekend. Last year, this event drew in a ton of interest, and while it wasn't perfect, it definitely had a lot of, some positives to build off of. So my expectation for this weekend was for NASCAR to just take what they learned from last year and apply it to this year. So let's see how it all went. So the first major point of interest about this race is that the race was moved to night compared to last year's race, which was a day race. I mean, to be fair, last race was postponed. Both races were held on Monday, but still, both races were supposed to be held on during the day. So the fact that now it's being held at night, it actually brings a lot of positives, because racing at night keeps the dirt surface from drying up compared to the day. And as Kurt Busch put it in the Truck Series broadcast, it turns. He compared the dirt surface to like cookies, and not gonna lie, he made me feel hungry for a little while, because who doesn't love cookies? So, anyways, the truck race overall was pretty. Truck race was pretty good, honestly. Surprisingly, compared to last year's edition, we went off to a pretty solid start. Ben Rhodes immediately dominated stage 1. Now, another thing to mention: caution laps didn't count during stage breaks, which, I mean, if NASCAR is going to throw a caution after the stage ends, I mean, this is the route they should go, because these cautions are pretty long. The cautions are pretty long in stages, like they spend like 10 laps on like a regular, on like oval races, figuring out like, for whatever reason, like these caution laps are pretty long. So if NASCAR is going to throw a caution after the stage ends, I would rather love for them to, not count during stage breaks. But then again, NASCAR has also been exploring the idea of eliminating pit stops, and making it like every stage break teams have an option to pit, and those who don't like make track position. This actually happened on Bristol Dirt on this race or this weekend overall. However, the fact that NASCAR has been experimenting with that, I'm not a fan of that, because it really takes away from the value of having a pit crew. And besides, dirt races are a different beast compared to like oval racing. So, just a little pet peeve of mine. With stage racing. I would just like either NASCAR to just show the green checker, throw the green checker, but keep the race green after the race ends. Either that, or if they're gonna throw a caution after the stage ends, I want them to not have those caution laps count during stage breaks like they did on this dirt race. But again, little rant aside, the passing overall was pretty challenging, but not impossible like Martinsville. It's just the drivers had to work a little hard for it. We still saw a few drivers making moves, a few comers and goers, and because of the passing difficulty, we saw track position mattering more than tires. And this was again another theme throughout the weekend. Ben Rhodes and Ty Majeski, they stayed out during the stage one break. They restarted 1-2, and they managed to stay on the top spots for pretty much the entire run of stage 2. This was also a 2-lane track, which produced on solid racing overall, especially compared to last year. We saw a lot of action in the mid pack. If you remember, like the Bristol Dirt last year's edition, most of the drivers were like making their big moves on the bottom. Like the top lane was unusable. Well, NASCAR fixed that on this edition by just giving the top lane more banking. Like I believe it was 19 degrees of banking, and then like on the bottom lanes had less banking, but they had basically the same banking as last year, but they just raised the banking a little bit on the top lane, and it really worked. It really worked. There were no rain concerns either for the truck race, at least for the truck race, but rain was a factor, as it is with Bristol in the springtime. It doesn't matter if it's in the concrete or dirt, which was a big win for Bristol standards overall. The fact that there's a chance of rain, but the rain never comes out, at least during the truck race, that was pretty good. But then again, up front, again, as I said, most of the action happened in the mid-pack. Up front, it was more of the same. Ben Rhodes putting on an absolute masterclass and winning stage 2. And then in stage 3, there was this strange incident where Austin Wayne Self and Matt DiBenedetto's trucks were stuck together. Like, quite literally stuck together. I thought they, at first, my first reaction when I saw this, I thought, Austin Wayne Self is just doing his thing, just retaliating against Matt DiBenedetto for something that happened early in the race. But no, it turns out that they were just trying to shake off each other, and eventually the caution was thrown once both teams realized that once the information was relayed to NASCAR that they were both stuck together and they needed to be unstuck. It was really funny. This is something that never happens. This is something that never happens, and this is gonna come out. And I know for a fact when we review, when the 2022 season ends, and we're reviewing the weirdest incidents that happened this season, those what the fuck moments. And this is gonna be number 1 on the list for sure, because I have never have you ever? No, I've never. This is a have you ever? No, I've never type of moment. For real. A red flag was thrown. It was a really quick red flag, like a 5-6 minute red flag, but it was to unstock those two together. And then, apparently, the funniest part was when NASCAR managed to get Austin Wayne Self and DiBenedetto's trucks, they managed to separate them. They had to lift the hood on Austin Wayne Self's car, or Austin Wayne Self's truck, for that to be possible. When the job was done, the NASCAR official, instead of putting the hood back down, instead he gave the hood pins to Austin Wayne Self inside of his car, and then they drove away. That was such a dick move on NASCAR's part. They could have at least put the hood down, and because now the guy had to drive down the pit road and he got to lose a couple more laps too. And he actually finished 6 laps down, I believe, but he finished in last place because, little fun fact here, all 36 trucks finished the race for the first time in Truck Series history. All 36 trucks finished the race, and this is honestly pretty crazy because the Truck Series, NASCAR fans always say the Truck Series is not what it used to be anymore. Back then it was the retirement home for veterans that their best years had passed in Cup and Xfinity, or the Busch Series back then. For those veterans to get a few more seasons, squeeze out a few more good seasons out of them. Guys like the Mike Skinners, the Ron Hornadays, the Johnny Bensons, Top Bodine, Ted Musgrave, the all breed, as people love to call it. Now the Truck Series is more of these third division, Division 3 NASCAR league for the young guns, just beat and bang, and some veterans that feel like they have something to prove still, the Matt Craftons and the Johnny Souders. So the fact that we saw a race beating and banging, but at the same time a race so clean that all 36 trucks finished the race in today's day and age, the fact that this was the first time in history, the fact that this was the first time in history is what really blew me off, because I thought in the older years that this had happened already, in the older years of the earlier years of the Truck Series, but no. So again, moving on, Ben Rhodes pitting because you cannot make it on fuel in the for the whole race. He got to pit eventually. John Hunter Nemechek and Carson Hocevar, it was down for those two guys to battle for the lead, and then eventually a few other players, a few other major players came on. More specifically, especially Buddy Kofoid, the 2021 USAC champion. He got himself into the mix there. He had a great race, honestly. He started from the back due to some overheating issues that he had during the heat race, and he went up to the top 5. He drove all the way up to the top 5, but then he spun out with 12 laps to go during a freaking commercial break. And we're gonna go into Fox's coverage again because I have a few things to say about that. But overall, this was a really tragic ending for what was a great race for Buddy Kofoid, a guy that Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell say that he is as talented as they are. So a little bit of hype surrounding him. And on the final laps, Carson Hocevar, it seemed like he had it in the bag, but Ben Rhodes, who through all the carnage he had been surging ahead, he proved that he got the best truck all night long, and he just made a badass move, like a slide job on the front straightaway, and he completed the pass on entering turn 1, I believe, because this was done on the front stretch with like 6 laps to go. Just overall a really badass move by Ben Rhodes. And you think that after such a beautiful, amazing move by Ben Rhodes, you think that people will say, damn, that was great, but no. Because, NASCAR community got a NASCAR community, I guess. Instead, what people say is, we waited all this time for a Ben Rhodes win. I mean, bro, Ben Rhodes was the best truck all race long. What did you honestly expect? No, that they really wanted a Carson Hocevar. No, I just really wanted a Carson Hocevar win. Okay, his day will come. This race really showed that his day will come eventually. He can compete for wins, but give Ben Rhodes his credit here. The guy had the best truck all night, and this takes me back to a video that I made last year when Ben Rhodes won the season opener at Daytona. I said that Ben Rhodes is one of the most overhated and disrespected drivers in NASCAR. And, unfortunately, that video of mine aged really well because a year has passed. Ben Rhodes has won the championship. He is right now arguably the best driver in the best driver in the truck series right now. Arguably, he put on an absolute masterclass of a race with a absolutely beautiful and badass race-winning move on the closing laps of the race. He put up a perfect race, and the first thing people that comes to their mind that people can talk about is, oh great, we waited all this time for a Ben Rhodes win. Bro, I don't care that you don't like Ben Rhodes. It's okay if you don't like Ben Rhodes, but at least give him his credit, give him his respect, dude, because he deserves that. He deserves your respect, honestly. But overall, this was a really quick race, all things considered. For the amount of cautions that it had, and a little red flag too, this race lasted less than 2 hours, which even I was surprised by that. And this gave me hope for the Cup race, even after practice and the heat races. This gave me hope for the Cup race because my biggest worry was that the Cup race, with all of the rain issues and a lot of the overheating issues throughout the and the track not being ready for the heat races, I thought that the Cup race was gonna flop. Spoiler alert, it didn't. So on that note, let's talk about the Cup race. Like I said, I made a video leading up into this weekend that I was worried about this race, with practice and the truck practice, during truck practice and also Cup practice, the cars were pushing water, they were overheating. So that's why I made that video that I was exploring the possibility, playing a bit of devil's advocate, saying that maybe Cup at Bristol dirt wasn't a good idea. Bristol on concrete is good as is. That they didn't have to turn one of the races into dirt and stuff like that. But overall, the heat races were fine. Of course, I'm not gonna judge a race off of 4 heat races, but the track looked great compared to practice. There were a few, those overheating issues that I was talking about. Fortunately, they weren't a big deal. There was a bit of overheating during like the first heat race, but after that, the rest of the heat races in both truck and cup, they played out pretty fine, honestly. So whatever NASCAR did to the track, if they did anything, if they did something, I don't know what NASCAR did to the track or if they did anything at all. But if they did something, it definitely worked because the heat races went by pretty flawlessly, I'm gonna say. Also, compared to the truck race, the rain became more of an issue. So much, in fact, that the race started 10 minutes earlier. The green flag was supposed to be waved at 7:14 p.m. It was waved at 7:04. Shout outs to 704 games, by the way. Daryl Waltrip was back in the booth, which great to see. The boogity brought back some great memories from 2000s and 2010s NASCAR, from the NASCAR that I grew up watching. So that was pretty, really nostalgic. And as soon as the race started, those overheating issues I was talking about, of the grill being of cars like getting muddied up and dirt picking up on and covering up the entire grill, it happened to 3 of the 4 Stewart-Haas racing cars. Briscoe, Chase Briscoe leading the race, Harvick, but then Harvick, Almirola, and Cole Custer. And Kevin Harvick had a nightmare race. He was running in last place, and he even got lapped. And like I said, the Stewart-Haas racing cars were overheating. They had to throw. NASCAR actually had to throw the yellow and have a mandatory pit stop for all vehicles to clean the grill. And in my opinion, like I said, NASCAR, they overreacted with this, and they were too hand holding. This is not, and a few people compare this to is this where we're gonna see all night long? Of course, I wasn't one of those people because we only saw this at the start of the race at the start of the heat races and during practice. So as the track goes on, this is gonna become less and less of an issue. But the fact that NASCAR threw a caution for this. For the teams to do this mandatory grill cleanup because one team didn't do their homework. That's honestly really stupid and unnecessary and hand holding. Like I said, NASCAR, they just overreacted with this, especially since we didn't see any of those problems with Chase Briscoe. And as it turns out, like I said, Stewart-Haas Racing, they didn't do their homework because Harvick, Eric Almirola, Cole Custer, those 3 guys, they were running a different grill setup than what Briscoe was running up front. So, again, more of a reason to be on NASCAR, to be on NASCAR's side or to not be on NASCAR's side on this one. More reason to believe that Stewart-Haas Racing, they just didn't do their homework, and because of that, all teams have to suffer. That was honestly, I honestly didn't understand that. But fortunately, Stage 1 had no more grill issues. Chase Briscoe had, but unfortunately, Chase Briscoe had a flat tire while he was leading. And Stewart-Haas Racing was in shambles, at least for most of the race anyways, because Harvick was running in last place. Almirola and Custer were about to get lapped. Harvick, and also speaking of Stewart-Haas Racing, Harvick didn't get his lap back because he was already lapped before the mandatory caution, that first caution was thrown for the mandatory grill repairs. Harvick had already gotten lapped, so Almirola and Custer, they were allowed to, because they went to pit road before the caution was thrown. That's why the caution was thrown. So Almirola and Custer were allowed to keep their laps, but Harvick no, but not Harvick. So again, NASCAR got way too handholdy with this. But anyways, Briscoe, the lone bright spot for Stewart-Haas Racing, had a flat tire, and Stewart-Haas Racing just was in shambles by that point. Not for long though, because Briscoe eventually made a comeback and was among the best guys on the track. He even competed for the win, and we'll get to that later. But Kyle Larson won stage 1. This because he was running second. He won stage 1. He pulled out to a 2-second lead at the end of the stage, which ended under caution for Justin Allgaier. And the general sentiment at this point was, don't let Larson get up front, because if he does, he will be unstoppable. Well, as it turns out, he opted to go to pit road. So this meant that the new leader in stage 2 was the amigo himself, Daniel Suarez. He stayed out, took the lead. Trackhouse and Trackhouse ran 1-2 because Suarez was leading and Chastain was second. As it turns out, both Suarez and Chastain were trying to beat out the rain to give Trackhouse Racing to have Trackhouse Racing finesse a win from the rest of the field, which would have been their second win in their last 4 races. And I really wanted Suarez to win this race. Like when the halfway point happened, and teams were checking the radar, and the rain was right there, and then when the halfway point was crossed, I really prayed for rain because I really wanted Suarez to win this race. But and to be honest, NASCAR gave me a lot of... And to be honest, every caution gave me a mini heart attack because I thought it was for rain. First, it was a caution for Bowman spinning out. Then there was a caution for a 4-car pileup where Gragson just was on top of Harvick, or just two-wheeling Harvick on the side. That accident actually messed up Harvick's tire and it took him out. In the middle of all of that, another driver that's having a really bad season, Denny Hamlin, dropped out with an engine issue. And this is honestly really disappointing because this just shows that even with the Richmond win, this is a bad season for Denny. This is turning out to be a really bad season for Denny Hamlin. Again, Hamlin, he's got to be really lucky that he's got that win. Now, I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 13 points. That's just asinine because who is around that 32nd in points? There's only 32 full-time drivers in the Cup Series, so being top 30 is not really a big issue, especially when you got guys like Cody Ware, Corey LaJoie, Todd Gilliland, and a few guys like Harrison Burton and Stenhouse who are struggling mightily to start the season, that are not supposed to be this low. So overall, Hamlin's basically locked into the playoffs. But I really thought that after he won at Richmond, like his season was gonna turn around, and he was gonna be run like top 5 at Martinsville, and then be run top 10 at Bristol Dirt. As it turns out, him and as well as Kevin Harvick were two of the guys that struggled the most throughout the entire weekend. Hamlin even finished last in his heat race, and mind you, he was on the same heat race as JJ Yeley. So not really just really a disaster weekend for all of these veteran drivers. For most of them, at least, for the big names. Some of the guys other guys the Kyle Larsons, the Chase Elliott's, the Joey Logano's, the Kyle Bushes, other guys. They were up front, but for Hamlin and Harvick to not be there contending for the win, that was honestly one of the biggest surprises for me. Also, just like the truck race, as the race went on, moving back to the race, of course, the outside lane was better as the race went on, especially in those longer runs under green. There was more banking, and the inside lane cleaned up as the race went on. As there was more banking there. But the inside line cleaned up as the race went on. You could see that grayish racing groove, as Kurt Busch put it during the truck broadcast, those cookies being hardened now. The track was slicker, that's what I'm trying to say. But eventually the race reached halfway, and everyone started racing every lap like it's the last one because they knew that rain could come back at any point. And Suarez was holding off Larson and Christopher Bell. And Suarez, he was holding off Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, two of the best in the business on dirt tracks. And then Chase Briscoe, he got into it as he also got into the action as well later on in the race. So Suarez was holding off three of the best drivers in dirt. He was holding them off, hoping for the rain to come out, which it never did. There was a caution for a 7-car pileup. And I mean, the rain did come, but it was like a light sprinkle, and it wasn't enough to warrant NASCAR throwing out a caution for rain or a red flag for rain. So they let the race go on. Eventually, Suarez got passed because there's only so much one guy can do against, a lot of dirt aces. Briscoe won stage 2. Chase Briscoe, who came back from a flat tire to win stage 2. And Christopher Bell finished second. Suarez, I believe he finished like third or fourth, but he finished somewhere in the top 5, I believe. But he didn't get to win the stage. And then the rain came out. And this is where a little bit of controversy comes in, because everyone thought that the race was going to be called. Everyone was working under the assumption that the race was going to be called. And Chase Briscoe, it turns out that the race was red flagged after Chase Briscoe had pitted. So, Kyle Busch was the leader. So, Kyle Busch stayed out, and he was first among the guys that did not pit. And the rules for, this Bristol dirt race, the rule was that if you didn't pit during the stage break, you were going to restart up front, like you were going to get track position. So everyone thought that because Chase Briscoe pitted at the start of, because Chase Briscoe pitted and then the rain came out, that Kyle Busch was going to be scored as the leader. But as it turns out, because the stage laps, because the caution laps don't count, because the laps run under stage break don't count, like they stop scoring after the stage ends. It turns out that Briscoe was technically the leader, and I understand this because it makes sense from like NASCAR's point of view, but the way they explained it and the way the rule is written is just so complex. There were a few guys like Bubba Wallace and Joe Logano that they were assuming that Kyle Busch had won the race. But to be fair, I mean, Logano was running. Logano, just like Kyle Busch, Joe Logano stayed out as well. So if Kyle Busch won the race, this meant that Logano would have finished second behind him. So of course, Logano said that even though he would have finished the race in 7th if the race was called, he wasn't gonna finish second. He was gonna be scored as 7th. And Logano said, nah, I'm second. Like, the fact that NASCAR, this really just says a lot about NASCAR. The fact that NASCAR is just the lack of transparency, and also the fact that they don't know how to explain the rules to their drivers, because there was a lot of confusion. It's honestly really, really worrying. But fortunately, we didn't have to worry about any of that because the race resumed. So thankfully, NASCAR, the rain, Mother Nature played along, and they didn't let NASCAR let this race end in controversy, quote unquote. The race resumed, but Ross Chastain unfortunately had to drop out because during the stage break he said that his engine was cooked at the end of stage 2. Like, his engine was cooked, and that if the race was resumed, he wasn't gonna be able to. He was gonna have to drop out of the race because I believe he was down a cylinder by that point, And then when the caution came out, like it was pretty apparent if you listen to his onboard that that engine was cooked. So yeah, unfortunately Chastain dropped out of the race. Pretty solid race because, again, just like Daniel Suarez, Chastain had zero experience on dirt. He wasn't one of those guys that that had experience on that came up racing on dirt, like the Tyler Reddick, Stenhouse, or Larson, or Bell. So the fact that he was running like top 10 in stage 2, even if he didn't score like any stage points in stage 2, but that was really a really gutsy effort for Chastain, and him being able to keep up with Suarez for like the opening laps of stage 2. Really some optimism. Again, Trackhouse racing is just on the rise, but stage 3 with NASCAR like treating the track again. The track was fresh, like in stage 1, as if the race started, minus the overheating and the grill issues, of course. But the track was pretty much fresh, like in stage 1, as rain had washed out like everything, and the track had to be like prepared again. But overall, Kyle Busch, he immediately lost the lead to Tyler Reddick, and Tyler Reddick went on to lead, and Tyler Reddick just zipped away. Kyle Busch, he settled in around 6 because he got loose. He made a few like amazing saves that I don't know how Kyle Busch saved that. But he eventually settled around in 6 with Austin Dillon, Joe Logano, Brad Keselowski battling up ahead of him. There were a few more cautions too, with the most notably being the one between Cody Ware and Chase Elliott, where Cody Ware, he fenced Chase Elliott, and Elliott retaliated by spinning him out. And then Cody Ware, he was really angry, and then he went during the caution. He went at Chase Elliott, and he hit him. Like, he straight up hit him under caution, not just once, but twice. Like, he rear-ended Chase Elliott twice under caution, and I'm honestly surprised NASCAR didn't penalize him, because NASCAR is very lenient when it comes to their boys have at it policy. But if you do it under caution, like, that's a big no-no. Like, if you remember what happened at Martinsville, at the playoff race at Martinsville last year, Quinn Houff and Josh Bilicki got into it, and Quinn Houff, he got penalized. Like, he got parked for like 5 laps for wrecking a driver under yellow. Also because there was a safety vehicle nearby. So NASCAR, that was, when it comes to safety vehicles, NASCAR is a big no-no. So I'm surprised they didn't penalize Cody Ware, because, not to mention, he started it because he was the one who fenced Chase Elliott and put him in the wall in the first place. So, Chase Elliott retaliated like any other driver with common sense would do. It doesn't matter who you are. If you fence someone, you should expect, at the very least, you should expect some retaliation. Either you're gonna get put in the wall, or you're gonna get spun out. That's what Chase Elliott did. So I don't think Chase Elliott did anything wrong. Of course, the Chase Elliott haters are gonna think otherwise, and they're gonna say that he's a dirty racer. But I digress. Another caution happened where Austin Dillon, just like Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon blew a motor, and this caused a stack up because he clogged the middle lane. Everybody was scrambling to get by him. They were diving high, going high, diving low, and in the middle of all of that, Kurt Busch got collected, and he crashed out, unfortunately. And then after that incident, rain came down again, and once again, I thought the race was over, but it turns out it was a very light sprinkle. And again, you gotta give NASCAR props for trying to get this race completed. Like, I understand that it's like, at this point it was like 10, 11 p.m. at least we're in my time zone, because the those West Coast people may think differently. But at least in my time zone, it was like 11 p.m. However, even then, you gotta give NASCAR props for trying to get the race completed. Because I get it, if it's on TV, like, you're gonna say like, bro, why is NASCAR taking so long? Just call the race. But if you are a fan watching on the track and you paid tickets to watch the race, it would be pretty shitty to watch the race get the race get called early for, weather and stuff like that. So the fact that NASCAR did their effort, did their best, their absolute best to get this race completed, to get the race completed at its scheduled distance, you gotta give them props, because from a fan's perspective, you're getting your money's worth if you stay up until like the very end of the race. Now, I know it's Easter Sunday, and there was some controversy whether NASCAR was supposed to be holding the race on Easter Sunday or not, because tomorrow is Monday. The next day was a Monday, and NASCAR and kids have to go to school. It's not like Monday is a national holiday. So some fans were like really pissed off about a Sunday night Easter race. I'm gonna talk about that later. But overall, fortunately, I think this was the final caution of the race. I don't know if there was like a few more cautions in between, but the final laps, it came down to, I think there was one more caution, but overall, the final laps, it came down to Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe, just the two of them. And on the final lap, entering turn 3, Chase Briscoe, he was catching Tyler Reddick. It was just the two of them. Like at this point, like the third place guy, Kyle Busch, he was like 3 to 4 seconds behind them, 3.5 seconds maybe. Briscoe did a slide job. He sized him up. He did a slide job, but his move failed, and he collects Tyler Reddick, and both of them spin out just in turn 4. Both of them spin out in turn 4. Eventually, and then the craziest sequence of events happened. This was like Charlotte Roval 2018 2.0. The craziest sequence of events happened. Like Briscoe, he spun out and he wasn't able to get the car started. Reddick did a full 360 and he kept on his way, trying to just limp forward to the finish line, like Lightning McQueen in that one race at the first Cars movie. He tried to limp to the finish line, but Kyle Busch just zoomed past him on the outside, and he just stole that win away. Reddick almost had it, but Kyle Busch, he stole that win away. And just like Bubba Wallace said, Kyle Busch better be ready for the Mickey Mouse comments. Bubba Wallace is a freaking prophet. That's all I'm gonna say, because Kyle Busch actually won this race, and he did it in the most unconventional way, because this is his 60th career win in the Cup Series, but also this is the first time he's won a race where he only leads the last lap. Like for the first time in his career, Kyle Busch wins a race by only leading the last lap. And of course, I can already hear the Kyle Busch haters going crazy, saying, that's a Mickey Mouse win. Kyle Busch only bitch and complain about Bowman backing into a win. Now Kyle Busch back into a win himself. That's rich coming from him and stuff like that. Stuff like that. First of all, Kyle Busch earned that win. Mickey Mouse wins do not exist. And I said the same thing about Las Vegas, where Kyle Busch fans were saying that Alex Bowman, he backed into a win like he always does. That's not true. Alex Bowman earned that win, just like Kyle Busch earned that win. At Las Vegas, Alex Bowman earned that win by being at the right place at the right time with a little bit of strategy. Kyle Busch won this race, this Bristol dirt race. He won it by being at the right place at the right time. Because if the top two wreck out, the guy that is in the third place is on the catbird seat. I never saw people saying that, Ryan Blaney backed into that Roval win when Truex and Jimmy Johnson crashed. Or what about when Dillon Hart Jr. in the 2011 Coca-Cola 600, he ran out of fuel and Kevin Harvick won that race. No one said that he backed into a win. No one said that Kevin Harvick backed into that win. Instead, they were calling him the closer. Because that's who he was at the time. Just like Alex Bowman is the new closer right now. Just like Kyle Busch managed to be at the right place at the right time and take advantage of the circumstances around him to win that race. Mickey Mouse wins do not exist. Every single win has a method behind the madness. Whether you win by dominating, okay. Whether you win by, a strategy call, or, because the top two guys, something happened to the leaders and you were up there to capitalize. It doesn't matter. All wins are earned. Also, in order for you to capitalize on the leader's misfortune, you gotta be running close to the leaders. You gotta be running second or third, and that's just what Kyle Busch did. So, you know, I digress. But you know, I said my part. I'm just gonna shut up. So you know, also after the race, so you know, with Tyler Reddick, with this heartbreaker of a race for Tyler Reddick, you would expect him to throw hands, just like Ty Gibbs did with Sam Mayer last week at Martinsville. But that's actually not that happened. Chase Briscoe, immediately after the race, he went to apologize to Tyler Reddick. And he said that it was, you know, he wasn't his mention to stuff like that. And it was all smiles, honestly. Just a really classy, moment between those two guys. You know, NASCAR is usually a beating and banging sport, and it's pretty exciting watching people fight and beat and bang. But at the same time, it's also pretty wholesome watching two guys, you know, having you know, a casual conversation and then being all smiles toward the end where, oh no, I didn't do stuff. It was my fault. And then the other guy saying, oh, it's okay, you were going for the win. I would have done the same thing if I was you. Because that's literally what Tyler Reddick said. So you know, a lot of people were calling like Dale Jarrett. I believe he called out and said that Chase Briscoe's move was reckless. Yes, it was, but they were also going for the win. But it was also like going for the win. I know that Briscoe had a win and Tyler Reddick didn't, but that honestly doesn't really matter. If you have an opportunity to go for a win, you go for it. It doesn't matter how many wins the guy in front of you has. It doesn't matter how many wins you have. If you got a chance to go for the win, you go for it. A lot of people saying that Briscoe's slide job wouldn't work. Dude, Briscoe is a dirt track ace. You never know what magic he would have pulled. But overall, like, I feel like Chase Briscoe is getting way too much hate, and also I feel like Tyler Reddick saying that, it was my fault. I should have saved the car better. No, there was only so much you could have done, Tyler. It's not your fault. It's nobody's fault, honestly. Briscoe went for a move. Briscoe went to make the move, but I'm not gonna fault Briscoe for that either because it's racing for a win. Again, last lap, anything goes, and even if neither of them won the race, at the end of the day, he's gonna get one eventually. Like what I said about Carson Hocevar in the truck race, Tyler Reddick is gonna get his win eventually. But anyways, with all that being said, what's my final verdict on this Bristol dirt race? Honestly, this was better than expected. If I were to give it a letter review, I'm gonna give it an A- on this. You know, my only pet peeve, I'm not gonna give it an A or an A+ because, you know, rain, it plagued everything. But overall, I will still, would I still rather have concrete Bristol over the dirt Bristol? Absolutely. Like, after all, I am of the opinion that Bristol dirt did not need to happen. Bristol is a great track as is. The main reason they turned the Bristol race, the spring race, into dirt is because of attendance issues. But overall, the Bristol dirt race had like the same attendance as like the Bristol, as like the other concrete Bristol spring races. So I don't think it's done much. Of course, in the coming years, it's still 2 years. It's still a small sample size, but so overall in the coming years it could increase. But my main pet peeve is, please don't run the Bristol race in April or March anymore, please. If you're gonna do a Bristol dirt race, NASCAR, at least do it in the month of June at the very least, and also make it a Saturday night race, because that's another thing that the NASCAR fans were really complaining about. That why is NASCAR racing on Easter Sunday? And overall, like, people were saying, why, if this is because of our religious stuff, and you know, as a non-religious person myself, I had to disagree, because if it was because of religious stuff, baseball is on Easter Sunday. The NBA playoffs were on Easter Sunday. So what's the point? What's so different when NASCAR does it? Well, when the problem is, it's not with NASCAR racing on Easter Sunday, but it's more of the problem with NASCAR racing on Easter Sunday night to begin with. That's more of the problem, because when NASCAR holds a Sunday night race, it's usually on the eve of a national holiday. For example, the Southern 500 is on Sunday night because the next day is Labor Day and it's a national holiday, so nobody has to go to work. Kids don't have to go to school. The same thing goes with Memorial Day. The Coca-Cola 600 is held on Sunday, late Sunday afternoon. It starts on late Sunday afternoon. It ends on Sunday night. The same thing applies with Memorial Day weekend. It's held on the Coke 600 finish ends on Sunday night, and it's no problem because Monday it's a national holiday. Nobody goes to work on Monday. On Easter Sunday, it's totally different because the next day is a Monday, and you gotta go back to work. You gotta go back to reality on Monday. So again. And this goes hand in hand with what I said about Bristol, NASCAR racing at Bristol on Sunday. If NASCAR wants to make Bristol dirt work, they need, because they proved that they can make it work. This Bristol dirt weekend was really great compared to last year's. But if NASCAR really wants to make it work and make this a marquee event on the calendar year, they really need to move this Bristol dirt race over to June and make it a Saturday night race as well, and a Friday night race with the Truck Series as well, because Bristol in the springtime it just ain't it. I'm sorry. As long as NASCAR goes to Bristol in the springtime, the threat of rain, 9 times out of 10, rain is going to be a factor. So overall, like I said, I would rather have 2 races at Bristol on concrete instead of one Bristol dirt race. I would rather have the 2 Bristol concrete races and then move like the dirt race somewhere else, like on another track that it is a dirt track to begin with. No need to convert a venue into dirt for it to make it work. But with that being said, if it is to save Bristol, I would take dirt Bristol over no Bristol at all. Like, I want to see Bristol twice a year. I want to see NASCAR go to Bristol twice a year. And if racing on dirt once a year is the price I have to pay for Bristol to keep its 2 race dates on the calendar, then so be it. Again, like I said, dirt Bristol is better than no Bristol. But if NASCAR wants to make it work, they need to make it a Saturday night race on June. Because there's honestly no other alternative. Rain is too much of a threat. Anyways, to end this, driver of the day, again, Tyler Reddick. He came so close to winning it, and he's going to get one, and he's going to get his soon. He was also the best car down the stretch. So, yeah, he is definitely the driver of the day for me. He came so close to winning that race, and he's going to get one eventually.